This is the current state of my first car. If you guys have watched episode 1, you will have seen that we saved this car from a barracks in Scotland and we've got it down here at Madford to fully restore it. In this episode, we're going to tackle what makes this car pretty infamous. Nope. Where is he? Nick.
Mike.
That is my Rover K Series engine.
K1614 to be exact.
Okay. Now, I know you've had a lot of history with these engines in the past.
I have, yes.
So, what is it about these engines that goes wrong, and what do you need to do to fix it?
Well, I think everybody knows that there's an inherent problem with head gaskets.
Yeah.
I don't feel myself that's an engine fault. I believe that was down to Rover saving some money on gaskets.
Okay.
Because in the Lotus variant, they don't fail.
Okay.
So that tells you something about the gaskets that Rover decided to use. The head gasket itself, the modified one is a triple layer head gasket, and it's got a modified fire ring around the cylinder, and you change the plastic head dowels to steel.
Okay.
And that and a head skim as well, of course, and that generally solves the problems.
Okay, so we're going to fully strip this down and completely rebuild it.
Yeah.
What's the first thing to do?
Start removing the ancillaries.
Nice one. So Mick, how many K series do you think you've worked on in your life?
Quite a few, couple of hundred perhaps.
Right, okay, so there must have just been a period of time where loads of people had MGs, Rovers, and they all
And
needed
Freelander.
this done.
Yeah. Some kit cars had the K Series fitted.
And why is that? Is that because it's quite a revvy engine? And
Well, they are very revvy, aren't they? Yeah. I mean, you've owned one. You know what they're like. They are a proper little rev monkey. That's not looking good. Oh.
that is...
I think that's probably where our misfire was. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, that looks like something from Alien. Jesus. Okay, what's happened there? What's all that gunk?
I would say the rocker cover gasket or something has failed and it's let water or oil or whatever. I mean, if it was head gasket, you would see it there and it's perfect.
Yeah. I remember that was one of the first things we checked up in Scotland.
Yeah.
The engine.
Okay, that should be you.
Very nice.
Now, I was talking to you about the shuttle valve in there.
All right.
And it's still in there. You see that little ball bearing?
Yes.
In my experience, I always smash that ball bearing out and get rid of it. It stops a hot spot in the cylinder head being created.
Okay.
I don't know why they did it. It's obviously some sort of one-way valve, but I always get rid of that ball bearing and it allows full flow. Okay. So obviously somebody hasn't done that before. Okay, do you want to lift the rocker cover off?
Yeah, sure.
Everything's undone.
Lovely.
Okay. And its gasket.
Okay. Oh, I love looking at these bits.
Yeah.
Lovely camshafts.
That smell.
I can't get over that yellow gum. I've never seen anything like that before. So is that just engine sitting for a bit too long?
Could be anything. Could be rainwater in there. Could be condensation. Could be anything that's got in there. Okay. And that's literally lime scale on those plug ends.
And I remember you saying, yeah, we dropped a cylinder, hadn't we?
Yes, we did. It was okay once it was revving, but when we were on tick over, we definitely got a cylinder down.
Okay, cool. Now, what's interesting here is, am I right in saying these are the tops of the long bolts?
Yes, the head bolts.
That was quite a revolutionary design back in the day. So how does this all work?
Unlike a normal head bolt, where the head bolt goes through the cylinder head and enters the cylinder block by, say, 2 or 3 inches, and the threads are at the top of the cylinder block.
Right.
On a K series, the threads are actually at the bottom of the cylinder block. So in effect, it actually crushes the entire block, instead of a standard head bolt trying to peel the top of the block off.
Just like one big sandwich.
Correct. So it keeps it all literally fired together. What we found naturally with the YB engine, when you push it to its limits of boost, it tries to peel the cylinder head off the block. because of the cylinder pressures. And because from standard, the head bolts are only in the top of the block, what you tend to find is it lifts the head and blows the head gasket out.
Okay.
So on some of the bigger powerful engines we've built, we actually use a process called long studding, where you put a longer stud in, exactly what it says, and you go to the bottom of the water jacket and you re-thread the bottom of the block. So in effect, you're actually crushing the block instead of just the top of the block. But this was quite revolutionary back in the day. And because they're a torque to yield bolt as well, they're a stretch bolt.
Yeah.
So as the cylinder head and the block obviously expand and contract, because it's torque to yield, the head will move and keep its its rigidity on the head gasket.
Very clever. Okay, next job.
Okay, we'll set the timing and we'll remove the exhaust manifold.
It's a lovely little exhaust manifold there.
Yeah, it is for a standard factory fitted manifold. I bet that flows pretty well.
Very pretty.
That's it.
This just slides off.
Yep. Looks like we've got some moisture in number 4 port. If you look at 3, 2 and 1, they're a nice grey, as you would expect an engine that's just been turned off. That one looks like it's had moisture in it from the 2 valves being open, which is what you would expect.
Okay, in a barracks, getting rained on for far too long.
Yeah.
So when we started it up, cylinder number 4 was probably the Duff one.
Probably, yeah, who knows. Okay, we're going to time up the engine now. So was this bought as a recon or just bought as an exchange engine?
This was bought as a reconditioned 300 quid K Series that had supposedly had the head gasket reinforced.
Okay.
We shall see.
We shall see. That's that one. Excellent. What condition is that in? Yep. So just a little bit of a tease there. It's on a dowel. There you go. That's it. Onto there.
They're lovely. I will never get over how nicely machined the camshaft is. But these are even nicer. The cam followers are my favourite part of an engine. They are just lovely.
Now these are hydraulic in this as well. And the same again, it's just good practice to put them back in where they come out. Everything wears to its own pattern, so it's nice to put them back in, where they came from.
And that has exposed the valve springs.
Yep, tops of the valves. Yep, I can't see any stuck down. So we've got no valves sticking, so that's a good sign.
Okay, so now time for the legendary
head bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I will not remember that, but starting here.
Yeah. And pull, that's it.
I actually remember at university, we watched like a 1980s documentary, maybe early 90s, about Rover and the production of this engine and how easy the production process was. Because they just sandwiched all of these sections together.
And bolted it all together. I mean, in the factory, you've probably seen them on videos that they would have a machine with 10 sockets on, And you just bring it down and just go, and that's it, done. So all this about people complaining about, oh, you're using a gun on a head bolt, that's how it was built, you know. Okay.
That was satisfying.
Pull away your head bolts.
So these are going to be massive. Wow, look at that. How about that? So this goes right down
into the crank web.
Right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So we can pull all them out. They'll probably be covered in oil.
Okay, Mick, this is going to expose the component.
Okay, so here's our head gasket.
Right, okay. Tell me what you see.
Well, I can see instantly, as we suspected, cylinder number 4 has been exposed to the element.
Yep.
The amount of rust that's on that compared with cylinders 1, 2 and 3, you can see. And I've just looked at the cylinder liner, it's destroyed.
Okay.
So, okay, so that is a non-modified head gasket.
So I've been ripped off.
You have.
So the head gasket basically is separating your cylinders, your water and your oil.
Correct.
Right? So it kind of depends where it goes, where it breaks, depends how bad your accident is going to be, essentially.
Depending how the head gasket fails depends on the symptoms that you get from the failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oil in the water, water in the oil. You get water in the combustion chamber, which gives you white smoke.
Okay.
You get oil in the combustion chamber, which gives you blue smoke.
It's either gummy cappuccino-y oil,
Yeah.
blue smoke or white smoke.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I got this reconditioned engine is because I had what I would call a steam engine failure. There must have been a complete failure from the water to the cylinder, and there just must have been coolant piling in there.
If we look at where our coolant passages are, so these are coolant passages here.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the head gaskets always have a limited amount of pass-through. Now, pass-through is the amount of water that it allows through the head gasket. So if you look at the size of the chamber on the head, but how much water is actually allowed through the pass-through, it's obviously considerably less. So in your case, Mike, and this side's a little bit bigger, but in your case you would have had one of these holes here actually go through into the combustion chamber. So you would not only have had water being burnt in here, you would have had compression from here being blown into the cooling system.
I mean, it was honestly, I looked in my rear window and it was just steam. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. So what is the big problem on the Rover K Series with this head gasket? Why do they fail so much?
Because Rover went really, really cheap on the head gaskets.
Okay, so this is a crappy component.
This is the crappy head gasket. The later head gasket you'll see when we rebuild it, it's actually a triple layer composite head gasket, which gives much better sealing properties. Yeah, that's junk. That's why K Series fail, is this rubbish.
With the K Series' torrid reputation then, it's really going to pay for us to fully rebuild this engine, especially with a brand spanking new reinforced head gasket, as well as making sure there's high quality fluids going in the engine throughout. And thankfully, this series is sponsored by LIQUI MOLY, so we've got plenty of that. The main fluid going into this engine is LIQUI MOLY's new generation MOLYGEN 10W40 engine oil. This is a high performance, low friction oil for year-round use. That means fuel savings and an extended service life of the engine. The special MOLYGEN additive in this ensures that the engine oil reliably prevents the formation of deposits, significantly reducing frictional losses in the engine and providing the optimum protection from wear. All of the main fluids going back into the car are going to be from LIQUI MOLY, so we've put a link in the description so you guys can check out what products they have for your car. It's super easy. Just put your registration into their search function and it'll serve up all the products they could make for you.
Okay, Mike, you touched on earlier why I always time engine up before I strip them. This is a perfect example. I can show you the reason why. If you look at all the cylinders now, they're all midway in the bore.
Yes, they're all perfectly aligned.
Aligned. So if you get any camshaft movement while you're disassembling the engine, there is no way in the world a valve can hit a piston.
Okay.
So it puts them in that
Yes.
a safe area.
Okay, cool. So is the next thing going to be the sort of other ancillaries on the
Yes.
side here? Or?
We need to talk about cylinder number 4.
Okay.
If you can see the coloration of cylinder 1, 2 and 3, and then look at the coloration of cylinder number 4, it's had a significant amount of moisture in it. But I think we may even get away with that. We'll find out in a moment. So if we just wind up there, we'll look at that one. There's still cross-hatching in the bores on there, same as Mondeo. So the bores actually look pretty good.
Yes, sir.
I'm expecting to have some problems on 4. I'm expecting broken rings on 4 when the piston comes out. Do you remember that crack noise we had when we cranked it?
Yes.
First, I suspect that was probably with the rings seized in number 4.
I can see, is that scoring there?
Yeah, a little bit. As long as you can't feel it with your nail, which you can't, we can run a hone down that. You feel it? You can't feel it with your nail.
No.
That's it. There's always a slight possibility when you turn over a K Series that the liner can pop up.
Okay.
So we don't like to do it too much. Do you know what as well? Looking at it, the way that piston's mint,
Yeah, it's a fresh one, isn't it?
and this one is aren't, I would say this has been burning water for a while.
Okay.
Because there's only one thing that cleans a piston like that, and that's steam. And that, I mean, let's face it, that's a funky fresh piston
Yeah.
compared with that one.
Yeah, like a carbon on it.
Yeah. Take that out first. There you go. Okay, so we can take the water pump off, I think. Is that a backwards bolt there? No, it's not. Oh,
Anything special?
somebody snapped the head of a bolt off there.
Oh yeah.
You wee bastard, yeah. Somebody snapped that off there. Oh, it's not, it's a dowel pin. That's fine.
Oh yeah. What is that?
Something's growing on the water pump.
That is some sort of organism, isn't it?
Nice.
What does that smell like, Mick? Give it a whiff.
Ugh. Doesn't smell good. Oh yeah. You can leave that in there draining if you want.
Okay.
Just leave it in the pan. So that one's green, that one's yellow, that one is blue. It really doesn't float my boat anymore. Now. Ask Joe, I don't shout that much. Now. Might get some water splashy.
The life juices of the engine.
Life juices, I like that. Yeah, no. Have you got Thunderbird 2 on display?
I do, it's in my flat on a shelf.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tasty.
I'm not seeing any chunks or anything, so.
Fresh as a daisy.
And that should lift up, yes. The girdle. That's what ties everything together. You know when your head studs come through the block?
Yep.
That's where your head studs screw into.
Right, okay. So that's like the base.
You see, that's right at the bottom. You see, there's your head bolt. Nice. So this actually pulls the whole block together. I like the fact that they've made it, if you damage a thread in here, it's not a block change, it's just the bottom bit change. Leave that the way it came out, like so. That's the way it's come out.
So that's what I mucked up last time.
Correct, you tried to take it out the wrong end.
So just to tell you guys, the original engine with the head gasket failed. I decided to dismantle it just for a bit of fun, really. And I basically spread it all out across my garage, and I got to the pistons and I took them out the wrong way. Mick has just taken them out the professional way. I took them out the other way, and the bloody piston rings sprang up, and I was absolutely, I mean, I was
so you must have
2 hours at it.
So you must have took the crank out first.
Crank out first.
And you tried to pull the piston this way out the bottom. Yeah, it won't go because there's a web in the way. Yeah. I wanted to have a look at the rings on number 4.
Yeah, they broken.
No. No. I mean, you can see why the K Series is such a rev-happy little thing. Look at the size of the piston.
Yeah, tiny.
Tiny little pistons. What is it your mum says?
What's for you won't go by you. You liked that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I did like that one. And she's right.
She is right.
Right, that should lift straight out now. There you go. Drop that on you.
What a piece of kit that is.
The rotating assembly.
It's like a trophy.
There's another. There's another. This will tell me whether you've actually bought a recon. 0.25, so that has been ground.
Okay.
So there's possibility you've had the crank, well, the crank's been ground anyway.
Okay, but the full, calling this a reconditioned, reinforced K Series was a bit of a joke. Okay, there are some bandits out there.
You had a bargain for £300 now, to be honest.
Outro, take 1.
Did you get a splatter there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Mike, so that's the K Series completely stripped. Bent to a bare block.
Very nice. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. A full strip of a Rover K Series engine. After the first episode of this series went live, loads of you were writing in the comments about your first car experience. Loads of lovely messages about the memories you had of your first car. Now, Mick at Mad Ford has a Twitch stream going the entire time, every single day he's in the workshop. So if you want to tune in live to what's happening here and even the Rover build, you can just go on Twitch, search for Mad Ford Engineering, and you'll be able to tune in. Now, the guys on the stream have been posting their first car memories, and there's some really lovely messages. We've got Uncle Bulgaria here. He says, my first car was a Renault Extra van with a tartan stripe down the side. Nice and Scottish. I used to load my mates into the back after the pub. He was sober, of course, and then drive them home. Cool message. Then we've got Hyper UK. He had a Fiat Punto Mark 1. He bought it for 30 quid. Restored and cleaned it up with new brakes, new tyres. He really liked this car. It was ready for MOT, and then the tax man clamped it. Poor thing is now a cube. Sorry, Hyper UK. We've got Torque Hill now. My first car was a Citroen AX 1.1 in dark green. It was the scariest car I have ever driven, as on a roundabout you felt you were going to roll over, but I loved it as it was my first freedom. Nice one. And then we've got X-Ray Specialist Punk here, a 75 Datsun pickup. Loved that truck, cracked a camshaft showing off, rebuilt the engine with smaller heads, ran great but not smog approved, must be in the States. And yes, the state made me crush it. That is savage. Then we've got Peter Sullivan here. My first car was an Austin Metro. Love a Metro. Registration VNT587Y. It's funny how people always remember the registrations of their past cars. It was a gold colour. Best thing about it was me and my best mate from school used to go to Barmouth at weekends and sleep in it. Take that as you will. Unfortunately, it got written off by a Volvo 340. Well, there you go. Those are some awesome messages from the guys that watch all of this happening live, but I would like to hear it from you guys as well. Post in the comments below the memories of your first car, what the car was, some memories you have in it, and maybe what's happened to it now. Do you still have it? Did you sell it? Did you write it off? Have you looked up the reg recently to see if it's still alive? Tell me in the comments below. Now it's on to the body shell. Now this car isn't too bad. It's definitely not the worst I've seen. There's a few holes, but it's not really that bad. But Mick has bought a secret weapon for this restoration. This is essentially a brand new, unused Rover 25 shell, and the goal is going to be basically doing reconstructive surgery from this to this. It only cost 320 quid, but it's going to be the saviour of this restoration. Now, I'm going to head off the comments before they come hammering in. Yes, it may be easier to take all the bits from this car and shove them into this brand new spotless shell, but remember, that's not my car. This is my first car, so we're going to reconstruct this one. Let's crack on. Mick, I'm going to call you out. Whenever we do a sound check to get our microphones all good, I say mic check 1, 2, all that rubbish. What do you say?
Do I have to say it?
Go for it.
Mike's red Rover is ridiculously rusty.
Well, that is going to come back to bite you now, because you do have to now sort out the rust on this car.
Yeah.
So, how do we get this looking as good as that?
Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to check all around it for all the rot we can see and the rot that we can't. And then we will cut out the section of rust that needs to be cut out. We will cut out and section the piece of good steel out of the body shell, lay it on top, do our cuts, do our welding, seam it all together, linish it, done. You won't tell it's been replaced.
Okay, well, I'll let you do the cutting and I'll come back for the welding.
Okay.
Crack on.
Sound. There you go, mate. Fit that. Thanks, mate. Good job.
Mick, how are you getting on?
All good. I've took the inner wing strengthener off the body shell.
Yep.
Unfortunately, on the red shell, we found a lot more corrosion than we first thought.
Why is it always worse than you expected?
It always is, Mike. So what I've done, I've removed the inner wing strengthener panel from the donor. That will need to be sunk in, so it means removing the rest of this, sinking that in, and then putting this panel back on in its entirety, and that'll tie the weld repair together.
Okay, so not great, but it really reinforces the buying of that.
Absolutely, we've got everything we could possibly need.
But no welding for me today.
Unfortunately not.
So that's this episode come to a close. It didn't quite go to plan because I didn't get to do some welding, but by the time you see the car next, it will have been fully repaired, sandblasted, prepped and painted for the parts to start going back into the car. Now, I did see some comments that I do want to chat about from episode 1 of this series. There were certain people saying that it's crazy that I found this car completely by chance and basically the first thing I'm going to do with it is give it away. That is the plan. We're going to fully restore this car to better than it was when I had it when I was 17, and then we're going to put it up for auction and give the proceeds to a military charity. And that's what it's all about. We're doing this for a fantastic cause. What would I do with a completely restored mint Rover 25? Not very much. It's been amazing seeing the car again, and it's going to be great to get it back going and have it in the state that it's going to be in once we're finished, but I do not need that car. Someone else will, and all I want to do really is give back to the military, seeing as they allowed this whole series to happen. So I hope that kind of covers it. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DRIVETRIBE. How am I going to get out of this one?